The illusion of time, my absolute cornerstone of all illusions. Okay, I'm going to ask you to do an interesting experiment. The experiment is to, I'm just making sure that my slides are in the right order because I just prepared this yesterday. Yes, let's do that. Okay, I'm going to ask you to, this is another scientific experiment, another startup here in Silicon Valley. Those guys built a very fast traveling vehicle, okay? It's made of a very smooth sphere, right? You sit inside it, it has very little resistance, it moves really, really fast, okay? But because they really care about the weight, they have nothing in there but a chair for you. It's a closed space. You have no idea what's happening around you in the open world that you're going through. All you feel is that as the capsule goes through different stations, it makes a little bit of a sound, boom. There are a few other ambient sounds. Don't worry about them. There is a boom, okay? In the reality of the experience, this boom happens every 10 minutes. But for here, we're just going to do it every second, okay? So I want you to close your eyes and count how long your trip from start to end is going to take. You count the number of booms, multiply them by 1 second, and tell me more or less how much time the trip is going to take. Close your eyes. You're in the capsule. Is audio working, guys? Yeah? Audio? Okay, good. Let's go. Okay, how long was that? 30 seconds is what you said? Okay, was it 30 seconds? 27 seconds? 29? It's a counting issue. Okay, so let's depend more on our instincts then. How long did it feel like? Did it feel like 27 seconds or 30 seconds? Did it feel like 30 seconds, more or less? Is that how it felt like? Yeah? Okay. So the scientist at the beginning was lying. That was me. Okay? It wasn't a second between every beat. As a matter of fact, it was 1.375 seconds. Okay? That's 37.5% longer than the 1 second. So that actually ended up being closer to 40 seconds than 30 seconds. Would you have ever been able to tell? Okay? Actually, the scientist at the end is lying. It was actually 1 second between every 2 beats, and this was actually 28 seconds. Can you tell? Can you not tell? Why? Okay, let's go on. I'll give you another test. We're going to now, we've improved on the technology very, very strongly. You're only just going to hear the first station and the last station. Okay? You're going to get a boom at the beginning, a boom at the end, and you're going to have to tell me how many seconds that is. Okay. Ready? Let's go. This is the first boom. Good. How long was that? No. I should hear one answer. You should all agree. How long was that? 16 seconds? 25 seconds? How many? 25. We have twice 25. 22. Very accurate. 20. 27. More than 13. Is that what I heard? Okay. Right. Good. Why do we not know? Okay. Right. So it was actually 22.5 seconds, just to ease your pain. There you go. Well done. Yeah. What did you do? Were you counting 1001, 1002, 1003? What if you stopped counting? Would you be able to tell it's 22 seconds? Why not? Okay? Because all that we're measuring around time, this is you with no sense of time, by the way. Okay? Have you ever done that before, to realize that time is actually, right? We look in our watches and we find out what time it is, right? Everyone will tell you, it's 10 p.m., right? No one will ever tell you what time is. No one actually knows what time itself is, okay? All we know about time is the way we measure time. We've invested so heavily to move from, I don't know, I don't remember the name of the ancient ones, to now having atomic clocks that are accurate to the point that you only need to adjust them every, I don't know what, million years or whatever, okay? But what are we really measuring? Did you realize what we were measuring? We're just measuring mechanical movements of objects. That's all we measure, okay? We measure how long it takes for the Earth to spin a full circle so that day and night happen. We measure how long it takes for us to go around the sun a full circle to measure the seasons, the months. We look at the moon and we measure the months or whatever. It's all mechanical movements. It's the, ticking on your seconds arm in your watch that tells you how many seconds have passed. But it's all mechanical movements. It's the impact of time, okay? It's the events that are happening as we move through the arrow of time. If you remove the mechanical movements, if you remove the ability for you to measure time, you have no idea what time it is, okay? That is actually anchored very, very strongly in science. So one of my favorites ever, most visionary in my view of physics, is what Einstein did in 1905, okay? So the problem he was trying to tackle is that if you're in a train that's going 100 miles an hour and you have a paintball gun that shoots a ball at 100 miles an hour, and you shoot it forward, the paintball will be moving at 200 miles an hour, okay? If you shoot it back, actually, and look at the train from outside, the paintball will be moving at 0, because it's 100 miles this way and 100 miles the other way. It will come out of the gun stationary, literally, okay? But, of course, if you're on the train, it wouldn't look that way. It would still look like 100 miles an hour, but it is definitely, from an external perspective, stationary. One element, though, which is light, does not conform to this, okay? So if you're on a train that's going 300 million miles an hour, and you shoot a beam of light forward that's going 300 million miles an hour, the beam of light will move at 300 million miles an hour constantly. It doesn't matter what additional speed comes to it from the train, okay? And so that was puzzling for a very long time until Einstein basically said, well, speed is distance divided by time. It's a mix of space and time, okay? And accordingly, if speed remains constant in space, that means time is morphing. Holy guacamole, okay? And truly, that was no scientific theory. He basically started to say that the world is made up of a 4-dimensional, something that looks like a loaf of bread that we call space-time. And space-time is one continuum where space and time morph, where time can be relative to your speed, it can be relative to the gravity that affects the object, it can be relative to a million other things. But time is actually relative, it is never constant. Okay? Not only did you not feel it properly as a human, but in reality, it actually does not exist in an absolute matter in physics, in an absolute manner in physics. Okay? Now, that means that if you're on top of Burj Khalifa, you feel time passing a little differently than if you're at the bottom of Burj Khalifa, the highest tower in the world, right? More importantly, if you're in a plane moving fast, you actually feel time passing differently than you would on the ground, okay? I see smiles. It gets weirder than that, right? And we actually measured that. We took 2 atomic bombs, we put one on a plane that revolves around the world and comes and lands next to the one that we left on the ground, and the 2 atomic bombs actually read differently. It's not like you feel time differently, time passes differently as a plane moves fast through. Now it gets a lot weirder, so take a deep breath. I know we're after lunch, okay? When that happens, when time is relative, okay, that actually makes the loaf of bread appear very interestingly. Because for all of us sitting in this room under the same gravity, the same speed, the same everything, the slice of now that we experience is all the same, okay? We experience a slice of now. A slice of now is basically the entire universe along a point in the arrow of time, okay? So as time evolves, the entire universe is one slice, right? Like a slide projector, if you want. It's a slide projector. Every slide is a cut in time, right? However, if an astronaut is approaching the world at a very high speed, like an astronomical speed of, let's say, 200 million miles an hour, he would actually see a very different slice of time than the slice of time we now see. We now see a slice of time where we are talking here, they are having war in Syria, and they may be eating sushi in Japan, okay? He would see a slice of time where we are here, Syria is in the 1500s, okay? And Japan is in the year 2029, okay? That slice of time that he would see is an actual slice of time that depends on the angle where time morphs in space-time, okay? So he would simply cut the loaf differently. It gets a lot weirder than that. Because what does that mean? And again, this is science. This is true science. What does that mean? It means that the year 1500 and the year 2029 already exist on the space-time continuum. That all of time is there already. Okay? Holy guacamole, right? Now, you and I wake up every morning and we deal with time. We deal with time, we have to be punctual, we have to be on time, we have to run, we're late. It takes me 17 minutes to get here and 45 minutes to get there, okay? And as I told you in the racetrack example, we have acquired enough skills to manage the apparent time, the arrow of time. But time itself is so illusory that you really have no idea what you're dealing with. You have no clue what you're dealing with. And that constantly puts us in a place where we're dealing with something that is stressing us, making life a lot more difficult, and I'll show you a few examples now on the biggest part of that. But let's lighten the mood a little bit, okay? Now, we're all subject to the arrow of time, but we don't react to it the same way, okay? So a cat's view of time is very different than my view of time. Anybody loves cats here? Okay. Good group of 2 people. What's wrong with you guys? Okay, right, 5 people love cats. Do you know what cats do? They sit there as if time doesn't exist, right? Do they? They're just there. It's like, that's it. It's like nothing, right? Most of the animal kingdom, actually, do you think that, fish wake up in the morning and say, oh, crap, it's 6 o'clock, right? No, it's sunshine, right? Do you think they eat at 12? No, I'm hungry, I'll eat. No time, doesn't exist. They don't even know what time is. And by the way, that's not only the animal kingdom, some of us live that way. So of course, being a Stanford student, you have to be a clock-based culture, okay? Ping, you have to show up. Ping, you have to show up another place. Ping, you're late, and so on. Everything is by the clock. The clock manages your entire life. The clock is the boss, okay? You wake up with the clock, you go to events with the clock, the meeting ends with the clock, and you end up leaving with the clock. And then go home, set the clock so that the alarm rings again in the morning and live with the clock, okay? Very efficient, the most productive cultures in the world, super grumpy, always unhappy, okay? Right. I come from a different culture. We call it the events-based culture. So as I grew up, my friends would say, we're gonna meet after Maghrib prayers. Like Maghrib prayers is at 7 p.m. After Maghrib prayers is like That's a big spectrum, seriously. Like, some of us will show at 7:30, some of us will show at 8:30, some of us will show at 11. Nobody cares. Whoever shows up spends good time with whoever shows up. Whoever wants to leave, leaves. There is really no issue at all. It doesn't have to be 6:35 until 7:42. Nobody cares. As long as the event is going, as long as the event is good, everyone's happy. Okay? Those events-based cultures, to your shock, are the absolute majority of the world. Okay? If you take Africa and Southeast Asia and Latin America, do we have any Latin Americans in the audience? Hey, there you are, right? And Middle Easterns, all of us, we just are not so bothered with time. We're much more bothered with the quality of the event, the quality of the moment, the people we're with, the joy we have when we're spending our time. Okay? There are other cultures that they call the timeless cultures. Right? The timeless cultures are the Buddhist cultures, for example, where every moment for them is now. Okay? The entire world is just now. Okay? And as you look at the world in a culture that is timeless, it doesn't really matter what's going to happen in 3 minutes. It doesn't really matter what happened 3 minutes ago. What matters is what's happening now. Okay? So, time being an absolute grand illusion has a serious impact on our life in a Western culture. And I will ask you to do a test that I really, really like. I call it the timestamp test. So I'm going to ask you to think of 3 different emotions, okay, and identify their anchor in time. Anchor is different than when you're thinking them. So I could have a feeling of guilt now about an event that is anchored in the past. You understand that? So guilt as an emotion is anchored in the past. It's because of something that happened in the past. I could feel anxiety now about an event that's going to happen in the future. Okay? So think about all of the spectrum of feelings, hate, regret, blah, blah, blah. There are millions of emotions you can think of. Take 3 of them, write their name and where they are anchored. Okay? 3 emotions, be ready to shout when you're done. 1 minute. Right. Shout an event. Shout an emotion. Anybody? Excitement. Anchored in?
Present.
Is it anchored in the present? Are you excited now, or are you excited about something that will happen in the future? Could be this or that.
I suppose you could be both.
Yeah, you could do this or that, right? Correct. Another? Anger. Anger is anchored where? Yeah, it's anger about the past mostly, but sometimes about the future. Another emotion? Happiness? Nervousness. Okay, nervousness is anchored where? About the future, right? So you're worried that the future is not going to meet your expectations, you're anxious. Go on. One more, and I will leave you alone. Peacefulness. Peacefulness is, or calm. I would use the word calm. Calm is anchored where? Calm is anchored in the past? I would say calm is anchored in the present. Okay? All right. So here is a table that I put together. It doesn't have to be very accurate. Right? I want you to notice it's, past, present, and future, negative and positive. Okay? You will notice that most negative emotions are anchored where? Past or future. Okay? So grief is anchored in the past. You're grieving the loss of somebody. Disgust is anchored in the past. It's about something you just ate. Okay? Shame is anchored in the past. Right? It's an event that happened in the past. Sadness is anchored in the past. You feel sad about something that happened. In the future, anxiety, fear is anchored in the future. Worry is anchored in the future. Doubt is anchored in the future. Right? Pessimism is anchored in the future. You understand that? Very interestingly, most of the positive emotions are anchored in the present. Okay? Most positive emotions, calm, affection, empathy, right? Satisfaction, are all about this moment, which is really, was really key for me when I looked at that. The problem with our brains, as I told you, your brain is concerned with survival, so it's constantly assessing the past and the future, the past and the future. Okay? If your brain was not judging the past and the future, what would it be doing? It would be narrating the present. That's all it would be doing. Okay? Your brain needs a timestamp to think. I'll just give you a few seconds to think about that. If you actually stop adding a timestamp to your thoughts would turn into red staircase ahead of me, people on seats, glass doors, Jennifer taking a picture. Okay? That would be truly your thought process. Okay? If you lose the timestamps of the past and the future, you would be narrating the present. Okay? Your brain truly, even though you are here, you are now, most of the time you live here in your head. You're constantly looking at the future and constantly looking at the past. Many of you here are probably in your 20s, okay? Does it feel like 25 years? Does it? No, right? I'm approaching my 50. Does it feel like 50? Not really, okay? I'm not asking the ones I know are older than 50, but it doesn't feel that way. Do you know why? Have you ever thought about that? Because you haven't lived 25 years. That's the problem. The problem is at the times when you lived here and now, you counted those as part of your life, when you were totally, fully present. Okay? When you were totally, fully present, you were living in the real world. You felt it. It felt like half an hour. Okay? The rest of the time when you were living in your head, that's not life. That doesn't count. You don't feel it. Okay? And so, as Pink Floyd would say, and then one day you find 10 years have got behind you, no one told you when to run. You missed the starting gun. Okay? And in my personal experience, that's exactly how life takes you. Okay? So take it from an older man, until you start to live in the now, it will all feel exactly the same. You will always be in the past, always be in the future. You will not live life. And as you don't live life, what will you do? You will get the negative emotions anchored in the past and anchored in the future. What does that mean? I told you time is truly, truly, truly my biggest topic of research. If I get time, I will get the whole game. But no one gets time, okay? And the problem we have is very straightforward, okay? As long as you have a timestamp, you're gonna think incessantly. The one trick I will tell you on top of OD and OD square and all of that is if you remove the timestamp, if you force your brain to think about the present, that's it. No incessant thought, no emotions that are negative, everything will be fine. How? Well, that's a biggie. We'll talk about that later today, okay? Now, of course, when I say that, most of you will say, but Mo, we're professionals. We have to go out there. We have to tackle the real world. We have to do real things. Didn't you think just about that? You know, we should plan for the future. We should think about the time and be punctual and so on and so forth. And I would say, absolutely, there are two types of time. There is what we call practical time, and there is what we call brain time. Okay? Practical time is when I woke up today in the morning, I asked Google Maps said 17 minutes to the location. I didn't trust Google Maps, so I said maybe 30, okay? And then I will get lost a little bit to find the place. Maybe I should leave home at 8:15 so that I'm here by 9 o'clock. I came a little earlier, but it was good practical time thinking, okay? I was thinking, making decisions, creating a plan that is related to time. That is brain time. Incessant time, the practical time. Incessant time or brain time is when you start to dwell on events in the past and the future with no practical use whatsoever. It's like, she told me I was ugly. Oh man, I will always be ugly, right? Oh man, I need to think about the test because the test is in 3 days and I really, really am worried about the test in 3 days, okay? And you don't do anything about it. You don't plan, you don't say the test is in 3 days, so I need to wake up, I need to go run, I need to work really hard to be good in my test. You just think about the test. You worry about the test, you don't do anything in practical time. So if you actually use practical time to your favor and remove the timestamp from brain time, we will all be good. Have you seen the movie Click? Have you? Are you guys sleeping on me? No. Okay, so Click is the story of someone that gets a remote control that allows him to fast forward through time, okay? Or pause time, or do whatever he wants with his life. And he skips so many chapters and ends up at the end of the game realizing that, hey, I missed out on the game, okay? If you haven't seen it, see it, because it will get you to ask this question. I'll put you back in the capsule now, okay? Remember the capsule where we went through? And I will tell you the following. You will get into the capsule. There will be 75 stations, okay? Every station will take around 10 minutes or so. And just to make it easy for you, in every station, we're going to give you 1 million experiences. You can play video games. You can go out and walk around and have fun and see, what the station is all about and sightsee and meet friends and do everything you want. If you're bored, press the button, and the capsule will move forward 75 times. When you click on that button, 75 times, you will end the journey, right? As you walk into the capsule, the scientist says, okay, so it's 75 stations, 10 minutes each, and that's all you need to do. And you say, great, I'll see you on the other side. As she's closing the door, she would say, oh, no, you're not going to see me on the other side, because on the other side you will die. Okay? Now you need to ask yourself, will you keep pressing the button? Every time you reach a station, will you go like, I don't want this, I want the next station? Okay? Will you dwell on the past station every time you go through a station? Will you keep pressing the button? Or will you actually embrace every minute that this capsule gives you? Okay? Will you actually go out of every station and experience everything that the capsule gives you instead of pushing the button 75 times? Was it 10 minutes or a year? I'm not really certain, but I think you get the point, right? Life is now, and now is amazing, so I might as well live now. Chats, questions? Yes, sir.
Passive and active.
Yeah.
There was a passive and an active
Passive
scale,
and active,
and you didn't speak to that, but it seemed like
passive and active. Passive and active on emotions. There are emotions that lead you to take action, and emotions that actually get you to close down. Okay, positive or negative. Positive emotions get you to take positive action. Negative emotion gets you to take negative actions.
What was interesting for me was that the positives seemed to be dwelling on the passive ones rather than the active ones.
That's also true. On the passive ones or the active ones? More than the active ones?
No, on the passive ones.
Yeah. So this is only a subset of emotions, okay? It could be different if you put all emotions out there. Okay?
I think I had a moment, because I was struggling with the concept you mentioned about not being a star, and I think you closed it to me very nicely, and I want to make sure that I'm understanding this. Because it seems to me there's also another aspect of anchoring expectations in the future, right? So you said happiness is events and expectations. And this seems to be a great forcing function, at least the way I'm understanding it now, is you're not the star, and a good forcing function to this is living now and not having anchors in the future, because having anchors in the future is a huge burden on the equation that you mentioned at the beginning.
Absolutely.
So thank you for
looping
it together.
We'll come back to this in the next section, because expectations in the future are actually not entirely up to you. But I know this is a very difficult thing for a Stanford student to tell you not to have a lot of expectations for the future, because they've been telling you should be ambitious all your life. So we'll come back to that in a minute. There is nothing wrong with being ambitious, but we'll come back to that in a minute. But you're absolutely right. Okay. Yes? The nudge. How do you recognize the nudge? The nudge is very interesting. So the more you resist, the harder it gets. Okay? So if life wants you to be in a certain way because it affects the big movie, okay, you will resist. It won't ignore you. It will push you harder. And you will resist. It won't ignore you. It will kick you. And you will resist. It will really thrust you, right? In my experience, it just keeps accelerating. The more you resist, the harder it becomes to stay away from the path you should take. That's how I recognize a nudge. Okay, everyone tired? Let's take a 5 minutes break, and then we'll move a bit faster.